Imagine living your life after 50 and feeling energized and excited about your future. Welcome to the Women in the Middle podcast, the podcast for women who are ready to figure out what they want and create the life they deserve. Here's your host and master certified life coach, Suzy Rosenstein.
Hey there, welcome back to the podcast, Women in the Middle. I'm your host, Suzy Rosenstein, and I'm so glad to be here with you again for this week's episode, which is all about fear of missing out, or FOMO, that anxious feeling you're probably familiar with when you think you might be missing out on something fabulous. Now, as you know, we like to take a bit of a midlife look at these things. For sure, all kinds of amazing women experience FOMO on occasion. But what does it look like for us older but wiser gals? That's what we're talking about today. But before we dive in, I want to make sure you know all about the upcoming Becoming Bold and Brave retreat in Toronto on July 12th through 14th. I would love to have you here in the Great White North in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, to make this part of your personal regret-proofing strategy in midlife. If you love this podcast, you will love the retreat. There are only 2 spots left. It's a warm and intimate group of amazing women who want to unplug from the thinking that holds them back so they can finally fly, so they can do what they want and appreciate how amazing they are. Now, is this you? I have a feeling it is. It's going to be a totally fun weekend full of coaching, connection, and creativity. There'll be a bit of yoga, too, all with gorgeous views of one of the Great Lakes, Lake Ontario, and you'll get the wow of the beautiful View Vista without the salt water. It's amazing how big these lakes are. And there's also going to be delicious food. So if you are interested in learning more, please don't delay because it's coming up fast. So just shoot me an email at info@suzyrosenstein.com. Get in touch and I'll send you more information about how to register. Okay, so now let's talk about fear of missing out, FOMO. By the way, FOMO might be exactly what you have if you don't come to this retreat. Okay, FOMO is different for different people, that's for sure. And it's becoming a super popular way to describe this feeling in general, but the actual term had a more specific use in mind originally. It was created by somebody named Patrick J. McGinnis, who's author of the book, The 10% Entrepreneur, for the context of business decision-making. So he used the term FOMO to describe a common phenomenon in business, which is when a manager or a leader decides to pursue too many ideas or initiatives because of this fear. And it's because of this thinking that they might miss out of a good opportunity that leads them into the poor business decision-making. So you could see how that can happen, right? Now, millennials and social media have helped to shift the meaning of the term a bit. And there are a lot of fabulous looking people doing fabulous looking things all over social media. It is so easy to make this mean all kinds of things and to become somewhat addicted to all of the drama. And what ends up happening often is that you see what's going on, it looks fab, and you feel bad. But what about FOMO in midlife? Now, it is a little different. It's still about missing out, but with a bit of a twist. With the older and wiser folks, there can also be a past FOMO, the fear that you did actually miss out. Like in your life, when you look back with regret. You might find yourself thinking back over your whole life, and perhaps you really do have regrets that you missed out on something and you can't make it up. Like maybe you gave up on a passion so that you could pursue the more reliable major in college, right? The safer choice. Or maybe you broke up with somebody a million years ago and still wonder what would have happened if you would have, stayed with that person. What would have happened to your life? What path would you have taken? You know what I mean? And then there's this kind of future FOMO. Future FOMO is the fear that you will miss out because of your age or bad planning, that sort of thing, that you're running out of time going forward. that you won't be able to do or experience what you want to do or experience in the years ahead of you because of age and stage related things. And then there's the regular same old FOMO that everyone else is talking about, fear of missing out when someone else is doing something that you want to be doing, that something's happening without you. And boy, can I relate to this kind of FOMO lately. For some reason, I was a woman in the middle of a variety of fantastic invitations and opportunities that were all for last week. First, there was a trip to Italy that I really wanted to be a part of that happened last week. I'd been thinking about this trip for a couple of years and was ready to book it. So as soon as the dates came up last year, I checked them out with my calendar. Things looked pretty good, except there was one thing I wasn't 100% sure of. When was my son's convocation date later in the year? One of my sons was in fourth year university and would be graduating, and I hadn't heard anything yet about the date. I went online to look at the university website to see if anything was posted yet for the following June. It was. Let me see, scrolling, scanning, scrolling. And there it was, the same date as the trip to Italy of all the dates. I was totally bummed. But of course, the decision was made pretty quickly. Months flew by, my son finished up the term, and the graduation ceremony was last week. The same week I started to see the photographic evidence of the Italy trip. Ah, yes, tons of social media images to prove how amazing it was. It happened without me, but the graduation happened with me. Also with tons of photographic evidence about how amazing that was too. Clearly, I couldn't go on that trip because I had a competing commitment. Then, last March, I learned of another cool opportunity for travel. I was invited to Lake Tahoe as a guest because of a program I've been in for 2 years. Oh my God, I was super excited. I know so many people that love that place, and I had never been there. I really wanted to go, so I waited patiently for my invitation and for the date to be announced. I crossed my fingers that it would all work out. Well, the date was announced, and guess when it was? Apparently the most popular date of the year because it was on the same day as my son's graduation. So I couldn't go to that either because of the same competing commitment. 2 amazing trips with 2 amazing women and mentors. Oh yeah, did I mention that these trips were with mentors? Yep, mentors that I've interviewed on the Women in the Middle podcast. The Italy trip was with Susan Hyatt, and you can learn more about her in our interview in episode 66, The Awesome Power of Midlife Membership. And the Tahoe trip was with Brooke Castillo, and you can learn more about her in my interview in episode 50, The Unbelievable Value of a Mentor in Midlife. So there you have it, 2 opportunities that would have been with amazing mentors in amazing places that I couldn't attend because of an amazing competing commitment, a special competing commitment that I wouldn't ever in a million years think of missing. No regrets, but there was some FOMO. Oh, the pain. I was quite aware of the fabulousness that was about to take place, all of the beautiful people doing beautiful things without me. Then, like I said, those social media images started pouring in, the videos, the pictures, the Facebook Lives, all of the absolutely delighted, smiling, happy faces. That didn't include mine. Now, don't get me wrong. I was smiling. I was happy as a clam. And you know what? I was proud beyond belief. I was filled with gratitude and love because my kid was graduating from university. And there were 3 grandparents there, a beautiful day with family, grandparents, and gorgeous photos of my gorgeous family. I truly loved the day. The weather was perfect. It was great. I was right where I needed to be, right where I wanted to be. But there I was, surrounded by a week of these photos, images, details, and thoughts. Don't forget the thoughts. Emphasis on the thoughts. Right there, along with my pride and wonderful family moments, was that stupid feeling of FOMO. FOMO isn't about not liking where you're at or what you're doing. It's much more about this fear or anxiety that you are missing out, that something amazing is happening without you, and also that something more exciting maybe, and maybe more interesting than what you're currently doing is happening without you. Now, my amazing women in the middle, what could be more interesting and amazing than the pride and naches that go along with watching one of your own kids convocate? It's up there, right? One of the best mommy moments ever. I mean, the president of the university even thanks the parents. We are acknowledged. Now, of course, I'm exaggerating a little bit. I wasn't really in pain. I wasn't losing it. I was where I wanted to be. So what was going on? What have you felt when you noticed FOMO, when you noticed fear of missing out? And more importantly, what's a midlife girl to do about FOMO? Well, Wikipedia gives us a concise definition. Fear of missing out, or FOMO as they call it, is the fear of not being included, kind of an apprehension, if not an all-out fear. Technology is definitely playing into this because we are exposed to more and more information that can be interpreted by us as something we are not having or getting ourselves. And there are all kinds of psychological theories that help explain this phenomenon, but we're not going to go there in this podcast. But you do know where we are going. It's no surprise. Your thoughts. It's always your thoughts. Your thoughts are definitely causing your feelings. Feelings are one-word emotions, and missing out is really a thought. So when you think you're missing out on something fabulous or something like that, you feel a certain way. Maybe sad, apprehensive, maybe jealous, maybe anxious, envious, maybe even vulnerable, perhaps even fearful. Now remember, thoughts and feelings are connected, and that is what's happening. So it's the way you're thinking about what's happening that's causing you to feel this way, not the event itself. The event is neutral. You not being at the event is neutral, but you thinking you're missing out, not neutral. So here are 4 great ways to minimize midlife FOMO, because life is too short, my friend. So let's talk about this. Number 1. Decide how you want to feel on purpose about past FOMO, about future FOMO, and regular FOMO. In all of these cases, you get to decide how you want to feel. So when you know that an event or experience is coming up and that you can't go, or that you decide not to go, or you decide not to participate, you have choices in terms of how you feel. In my situation with the graduation, I knew I wanted to feel proud. I wanted to feel connected to my family. That was clear. And then you have to think something on purpose that creates that feeling for you very intentionally. The thought I kept thinking on purpose was, I love what I'm doing right now. And there will be other amazing trips. You'll find that the better you get at this, thinking thoughts intentionally, the easier it is to manage the FOMO spin. Okay, number 2, consider the idea that you may not have missed out on anything in the past, and you may not be missing out on anything now or in the future. This may sound really odd, but once you accept that the concept of missing out is actually a thought, it's easy to play with the concept. You can ask yourself questions like, why do I think that? And what do I make missing out mean? What am I really afraid of? Maybe you're not missing out at all. If a thought doesn't serve you, you don't have to think it. You can always question your thoughts. All right, number 3, practice handling disappointment. I know this may sound a bit juvenile, but seriously, one of the main aspects of being an emotional adult is your ability to manage negative emotions, negative feelings. Disappointment is one of those emotions. So is fear, apprehension, anxiety. You can't do everything. You can't be everywhere. It's okay to be sad or disappointed. Negative emotions are a normal part of life. It's an awesome skill not to be at the effect of your emotions, not to be afraid of your emotions. And as I like to say, be the queen of your brain domain. You may want to play with a thought that is more accepting of having negative feelings like this in the first place. Number 4, finally, manage social media like the CEO of your life. If FOMO is a regular problem for you, consider cutting down on using certain apps or cutting down on overall screen time. If you notice FOMO around a specific event or person, same strategy. Cut back on purpose. It's an option. You can ask yourself what love would do to help you solve the problem. I love that question. It's awesome because it usually brings up being more compassionate with yourself. It's usually a good idea to focus on the cause, which is the way you're thinking about what you're missing. But reducing social media in this way can be a simple thing that you can do to help yourself out. Very loving, very sweet way to treat yourself. All right, that's it, my friend. Your FOMO reducing strategy in midlife. FOMO can be a total drag and can keep you from being your happy-go-lucky self. It can really get in your way and be a negative distraction in your life. But the good news is it's thought-based, and that means it's optional. You have more power than you think, even when you're not where you think you want to be or need to be. Maybe the only thing you're really missing out on is wasted time worrying about missing out. That's it for this episode. My focus as a midlife coach is to help you get excited about your life again. And that means you have to get better at thinking on purpose, better at being that queen of your brain domain. I'm excited to hear about what you do with all of this helpful info. So make sure to let me know by sending me an email at info@suzyrosenstein.com. You can always check out the show notes with more information and links at suzyrosenstein.com. And you got to also remember to check out my free Facebook group, the Women in the Middle Community, at facebook.com/groups/Women in the Middle Community. It's for women just like you. And did you know I have a free ebook? Check out this free ebook, 9 Secrets to Get Unstuck in Your 50s. It's available at suzyrosenstein.com/9 secrets. And finally, if you like what you've heard on today's episode, just head over to the Women in the Middle podcast on iTunes and leave me a review, which of course really is greatly appreciated. The more stars, the better. And thank you in advance. So let's do this, ladies, one bold, brave, and humorous thought at a time. Thanks so much for listening, and I will talk to you next week.